So I'm going to talk about Sevenly after this. So this talk that I give is called People Over Profit. It's a book that I'm writing, and it really barely mentions Sevenly. It's kind of a research study of what's going on in the world. So hopefully you guys can put the ears on to hear this message, and then we'll talk a little bit more Sevenly, and then we'll do a little Q&A after that. But I think you guys are going to be excited about this. So that's me.
All right.
That was me. I think I was probably 6 years old. I was born in 1985 to a pretty normal family here in Rancho Cucamonga. So had a brother. We went on vacations, did all the kind of normal, typical things that a Southern California family does. I played baseball. I played a ton of baseball. If you were to ask me at the age of 17 what I was going to do for the rest of my life, I'd tell you that I was going to be a professional baseball player. I was throwing 87 miles an hour as a 17-year-old left-handed pitcher at 5'9", which was very rare. And I blew my arm out in a travel ball World Series game from my senior year to my freshman year of college in front of 35 professional scouts, and my whole last 15 years just went down the drain. And I kind of shifted that energy, into some other things, which I'll go into in a second. But growing up, my dad had this theory of the golden handcuffs. He said he had a job that was too good to leave. And I didn't really understand that as a child, but he was always being very enterprising with me. And I didn't really recognize it when I was a kid. But when I was 7 years old, I was waking up at 5 a.m. to go collect cans, not because we needed the money, but because my dad was teaching me how to make money. And by the time I was 12, my dad was bringing home boxes, like these moving boxes, these $3 boxes, these $5 boxes, and these bigger $7 boxes. And I was selling them in the recycler, which I guess is like the pre-internet version of Craigslist. I was making like $300 or $400 as like a 10 or 12-year-old. It was crazy. And that kind of shifted into a little bit of, I was selling fake IDs when I was in high school. And then I actually started selling drugs after that, which kind of really led me into a major shift in my life. I crashed at the age of 20, and I had to spend the next couple years totally redefining who I was. And over the next 5 years of that time, I'd started 5 businesses by the age of 25, producing over $5 million in revenue. But I kind of had another moment. 25 years old, I thought, man, I'm doing all this work, making good money, love Jesus, but doing nothing for the world. And I couldn't figure out how to connect those two. I had to do this profit and purpose, and how do you blend that? What does that look like? And that was really the birth of Sevenly. How many of you guys have heard of Sevenly? So quite a few of you guys. Okay. So I found myself as the CEO of the social good company, which is really weird to me at this point. I didn't know that it was going to work. We're 50 employees now, and the role of a CEO is to cast vision, lead people, and monitor markets. That's my interpretation, at least. I was fascinated over the last couple of years with monitoring markets. I watch a lot of CNN. I read a lot of crazy books. And I'm really fascinated with this shift towards good. And I watch companies like Tom's and Warby Parker and Sevenly trailblaze the marketplace. Like these companies that were giving back were crushing those that weren't. And that was a new trend that I started realizing. But why? Why are companies that are showcasing good thriving? I didn't understand that. Did people just start caring about people more? Like, I don't think so. Like, did we just start caring about each other more in the last 5 or 6 years? So I did the research for this book I'm writing, People Over Profit, that comes out next year. It's incredible how long it takes for a book to be published. And I'm going to share them with you guys. It's just some of the findings that I'm going through in the research process, learning on this shift. I'm going to open up with a story, though. So that's my doctor's office. A lot of you guys probably have a very similar looking doctor's office. I walked in with the classic pharmaceutical company pen and the dirty sign-in sheet and wrote my name down. And I'm surrounded by the tacky wallpaper and germ-covered magazines from 2009. And the stained cloth chairs that haven't been cleaned or replaced since I was 12. And I started realizing like why are these people not, are we valuing profit more than people? They can't update this stinking waiting room? Professionals and doctors that are making $400,000 a year can't see the value in updating just the basic necessities of the patients that they say that they care for. And we're in a time where food companies have increased efficiency at the cost of quality, and they're selling a product to consumers that they wouldn't even sell to their own families. We're at a time where executives have chosen greed that magnifies a level of immorality and pain just to the thousands of employees and customers that they said that they cared for. We're at a time where companies think that it's okay to force 2-year contracts rather than just providing a product or service that customers could stand behind on their own. And we're also in a time of a bright counterpart. I'm really excited about this. There's a bright counterpart rising from this downward trend in capitalism. It's a counterpart that says that we're honest, a counterpart that says we'll pay more to offer integrity and quality to our customers, a counterpart that's healthy, a counterpart that's contract-free, and a counterpart that says we don't just care about our customers, we care about our world. Now, many of you guys have called this counterpart conscious capitalism. Some of you guys have heard it as social good. Some of you call it as philanthropic capitalism. See, but is conscious capitalism a generational phenomenon, or is it a time-tested pattern? Is it just a trend that's living within Gen X and Gen Y, or is it a piece of a bigger picture, kind of a movement of eras that's rotating through time over and over again? First, I want to talk to you guys more about movement. People are intrinsically attracted to movement. There's something that's embedded in our DNA that I think stems back as far as survival. If something moves, is it food or is it threat? Where is it going? How does it affect me? What does this teach me? What does this tell me? Today, movement can be anything from the movement of markets to the movement of culture to even the movement of morals. See, but what's even greater than movement is a pattern of movement. You see, pattern removes uncertainty. Pattern offers us the ability to plan, and pattern is ultimately what builds trust. So today I'm going to discuss a pattern of movement that I've laid over history over the last 160 years. It's a model that's going to tell us some important truths of where we were, where we are, and I think it's going to tell us very closely to exactly where we're going. First, I'm going to show you guys 7 company logos. There's not a coincidence, there's 7 there. And I want you guys to raise your hand if you believe they value people over profit, and I want you to raise your fist if you believe they value profit over people. All right, here we go. Everybody needs to participate. Starbucks. Interesting, huh? Chick-fil-A. Depends on the crowd you ask. Bank of America. Apple. McDonald's. Ford. Whole Foods. All right, so the interesting thing is that many of you guys would have changed your answer pending on one thing: the year that I asked that question. Has McDonald's and Bank of America always valued profit over people? No. Will they continue to in the future? Maybe. Let me explain how I believe these companies have got to where they are. Companies in capitalism function in 4 eras. I'm going to show you where we were, where we are, and where we're going. Now, I could use the medical industry, I could use the financial industry, the education industry. I'm going to use the automotive industry because everybody owns a car and everybody knows who Ford is. We're going to use Ford in this example. Remember, all of us are affected by these 4 eras because this affects mass capitalism, which is directly tied to mass consumerism. So, first era. This is the honest, exceptional, and moral era. This is people over profit. This is typically an early stage company, and almost all companies start here. This is when craftsmanship, quality, authenticity, handmade, and integrity are all at the core of its business. This is Ford, 1914. They became the first company in the world to offer a 40-hour work week. Okay, the reason we have a 40-hour work week is because Ford. In the face of their competitors offering an 80-hour work week, and actually at the time having a huge increase in employee factory death. See, but as most successful companies do, they grow, and they need to make room for this growth that they're having. They make subtle exceptions and deviations at this time, which leads us to the next era. The ethical, satisfactory, and efficient era. This is people and profit. This is where assembly lines, outsourcing, mass production, bulk manufacturing, and speed move to the core of its business. This is Ford in their heyday, starting in 1955 with the rollout of the Mustang, the Shelby, the Cobra. But again, as history tells us, most companies move even further down the line of ethics. Fueled by greed and a lack of control of their growth, morals slip even lower. Leads us into the unacceptable, unethical, and deceptive era. This is profit over people. This is where planned obsolescence, shortcuts, greed, layoffs, embezzlement, and disproportionate wealth move to the core of its business. This is Ford in 1971 with the rollout of the Ford Pinto. And they actually had 900 people die from burning alive in that car. They released a statement that said, "We knew about the design flaw and we thought it'd be cheaper to pay for the lawsuits than to fix the repair." It's not the same Ford. This is also the beginning of the economy-shifting trend of nobody wanting to buy an American-made car. See, the most fascinating result of this era is that every time capitalism entered it as a whole, we had an economic recession. 1931, 1971, 2008. But as history tells us once again, consumers won't stand for this for long. Companies must recognize their failures, right the wrongs, and start the long process of apologizing to its consumers. This is us into the next era. The apologetic, the rectifying, and highlighting of truth era. This is where we are now. Post-2008 recession, and my research says that we'll be here for the next 3 to 5 years. This is where transparency, the exposing of lies, the re-domestication of product, and the resurrection of core values moves back to the core of its business. This is Ford 2009. Post-government bailout, they had the advertisements going out saying they don't want it, they don't want the money, they can do this on their own. You know, they were like the one that didn't take the bailout cash. They rolled out a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, which had never been done before, just to kind of regain trust with their consumers. Companies like Hyundai rolled out commercials that said, if you bought a car from us and you lost your job, just go ahead and return it, no questions asked. That was a huge shift. But interestingly enough, history tells us that we actually won't get worse, but better after this. We will follow a pattern of movement from the apologetic era back into the honest era. An era I think we're going to hit around 2020. An era I believe should be led by the rising generation of believers. Now, for those of you who are skeptics need examples. For those of you who aren't seeing the trends, I'm going to give you guys a couple more, examples that we can bring some evidence to what I'm talking about here. Documentaries. There have been more documentaries in the last 5 years than in the past 50 years. People are searching for truth. People are exposing lies. And people are looking for change. How many of you guys have watched a documentary in the last 30 days? A lot. You asked that question in 1994, and one guy would raise his hand. Farmers markets. We've lost trust in our grocers. We've lost trust in our food companies who said, screw this. I'm going to go straight to the farm for my food. Films about true stories. Over the past 5 years, we've had a 400% increase of films featuring true stories. Fair trade or American made. People are paying more to know that our products were made legally and ethically. Craftsmanship. We don't want robots making our products anymore. We want to know that it was made correctly. You see this in craft beer to craft wallets to craft vodka, whatever craft anything is coming out these days. Everything's craftsmanship. Vintage design, vintage wood. Everybody wants a reclaimed wall in their house right now. Vintage fonts, vintage photography. Instagram blew up on that. We want vintage because vintage represents an era of real that we don't have right now. an era of honesty that we are looking back to, and that's why it's coming back. So all in all, I want you guys to walk away with 3 things. Conscious capitalism is not a trend. It's a reaction. It's just the current manifestation of this apologetic era. Number 2, we are currently living in the apologetic era. That means in today's market, truth, transparency, quality, authenticity are our economy's best strategies. And number 3, this is a huge opportunity for the rising generation, especially for believers. We should be the ones leading people, leading our country, leading our world out of the apologetic era, back into the moral era. To be entrepreneurs and starters who are not only intentional about integrity, but to be those who can ultimately remain transcendent through these eras, to always remain true in our ability to remain honest, exceptional, and moral. Thank you. So, that's the presentation. I want to open up a little bit of Q&A. I've given this presentation a few times now to crowds as big as 3,000 and crowds as small as my wife. So, so I'd love to answer any questions and then talk a little bit about Sevenly, and then you let me know when I'm cut off at that point. So any questions on the presentation?
Because our Sevenly is a reaction to the era we were in, do you think in the next era when it becomes authentic again, will it become obsolete, or are you going to evolve?
So that's a great question. So I don't think it'll become obsolete. I think that we just had a really good advantage. Meaning that I think in 2020, companies having a double bottom line is going to be standard. Like you can see companies like Target just released Feed. They said they're going to be fully organic by 2017 or whatever. Every company in the world is trying to figure out how to be warm, is what they're calling it, or how to do good, how to connect themselves to good. There's actually a trend in business right now where giant companies are killing their foundations and integrating good into the business. So they like Hershey's has like a huge foundation, right? That they give, tens of millions of dollars away a year, but nobody ever knew about it, right? Therefore, they're not getting the benefit of it, right, anymore, right? So now Hershey's is killing their foundation, integrating it into their company and trying to figure out how to make a social good play to let the world know that, trust us, because we care more than just profit. We care for people too. And they might, but at this point, I don't know if people would vote with their hands if Hershey's is a people over profit or a profit over people. But I think Sevenly had a huge advantage when it started, post-recession. So there's a great quote by the guy that wrote the book 1984. There we go. He says, truth, see, how does it go? In a time of deceit, truth is a revolutionary act. Mm-hmm. Okay? So post-recession, you have this time where nobody trusts anybody, right? Like, all the companies are going out of business. Like, you're thinking, holy crap, like AIG's out or whatever. Everything's falling apart. Everybody's lying to me. So you have like a pop-up of all these companies that tell truth. You get like CarMax that like comes out of the nowhere. You get Tom's Shoes and these other companies that say, you can trust us. You can trust us. So I think that we're actually going to be, hopefully, Sevenly will be just at the front of that wave. Like Chick-fil-A. They're a great company. They've always been a great company. I don't know what era they started in exactly. I haven't researched back at that, but they're always good because they're just a good company. And I think that Sevenly will remain. My book's talking about what companies have actually gone through the cycle and how do you identify if you're going through it. Because it's really easy to slip into that efficient era, right? It's like a slow fade that you don't realize every day, that's happening. So our goal is to make sure to show in the book what companies have been able to stay in the honest era for like 25 years or longer. And what are they doing? And I've related it so far that they are acting like startups, even though they're giant companies. They're like, I gave an example. My dad is the kind of guy that when he buys a car, He keeps like every single receipt for every single like update that's been done for. He washes it like clockwork. He gets the oil changed like clockwork. Like everything's taken care of, right? It's like, oh my God, Dad, just let it like slide a little bit. No, but there's a reason, there's a purpose for that. He's just like, it's like he has this new car. Like I would do that for the first maybe 8 weeks of my new car, you know? But he does it for like the first 8 years, right? And that's what I'm starting to see, is you get that fanatical desire to like treat it like it's new still. Those are those companies that are doing that, so good question.
As I've seen a lot of nonprofits and organizations that are really focused on capitalist or conscious capitalism, I see them almost pressured by conservative demands as they grow to kind of shift into like an efficient era. How can companies that are starting up in the conscious capitalism keep to their core values?
I think that a big thing is just slow growth or fast growth, or I actually break it into like a couple of categories. So Sevenly's in the same point. We have investors that want to give us money and want to make us go hyper growth. It's like 3-4 times growth per year. It's crazy. You can't value people over profit, and you can't have a tagline that says people matter and grow that fast. You just can't do it. You can grow fast, like doubling every year, which is still crazy, or you can have organic growth. And I think that companies are going to have to be able to, it takes 10 years to build an overnight success, right? That's like one of my favorite quotes of Chick-fil-A is huge now, but it's been around for 50 years, So I think that the sense of entitlement in our generation needs to kind of go down. I think the sense of urgency to like be a big company really fast needs to go down. I think that venture capitalists are giving money to a bunch of young people that don't know what they're doing. We take in money short, like in small amounts. So instead of taking $5 million at once, we'll take $1 million, $1 million, $1 million, $1 million over a few years. And that's a safer bet for us to learn how to like manage that kind of money. The worst thing you can do is give someone who hasn't managed that kind of money all that money. So it's up to the founders and the board, I guess, to be able to say, are you going to choose organic growth, fast growth, or hyper growth? I think you can do fast growth with it, but just with a really good eye at the top, just making sure that you guys stay on track. It's easy, you're right, it's very easy to fall into that efficient era.
I don't know if I'm just out of touch, but I've not heard the term apologetic era before. Apologetic could mean two different things. It could mean to give a defense, or it could mean to apologize. Where does that term come from?
So it's my term. So that's probably why you haven't heard it yet. I think the thing for me is that if you ask most people between the ages of 13 and 25 what they think about capitalism, they're going to say it's stupid. Capitalism is the greatest thing that our country has ever invented. Okay, like it is incredible, and it is an incredible tool to destroy the world also. Mm-hmm. And I think right now this generation is apologizing for the last generation's mistakes, and we are earning trust back into consumerism again. That's the goal. Companies like Sevenly make people want to buy things again. Companies like Whole Foods and companies like REI and companies like Tom's think that it's not all about money. And you see the B Corps coming out and like LLC like versions that like can give back. And people want cohesion in their life right now. So I think that it's just a way to kind of earn back that trust. And once it's earned back, it'll kind of be standard for a while. But then we'll slip again, as we always have. My assumptions, at least.
What's the relationship of cause-related marketing to what you're doing?
Yeah, I think cause-related marketing is, again, it's a way to show people that it's not about profit, it's about cause. So, and people can see through some of the shystiness of companies where they say, oh, we give 1% of your purchase when you go online and you register for this thing and then pick your charity and then we'll send you something in the mail and then you can give it to them. And it's like, what? It's like, that's too, yeah, I don't want that. Or you're checking out, would you like to donate $1 to, it's like, you don't really care. Like you're just trying to like, some VP said this is a good idea, right? I think at this point, like it has to be baked in to really be authentic. Yeah, those big companies will still survive, but Sevenly is that, I mean, we gave more than 5 times our net profit last year away. So like, we're in it for giving, but we're a profitable company. You know, we're a $9 million a year company that has been able to stay true to generosity and to giving. And I think that consumers are getting really smart to figure out which ones are like, are you using it as a marketing play, or are you using it because you really care? And I think that they're going to be looking not at just like your financials. They're going to be looking at your entire brand and how you're perceived in the market. And that's why being a lifestyle brand, showing that what does a lifestyle of generosity look like? What does a lifestyle of people matter look like? I mean, it literally starts with even our staff for us. Like we have to pay people more. We have to give them better benefits. We have to be generous with our people first. So I think cause is really just, it can't come off as marketing. And that's really hard to fake it. But that's how I think it plays in. I started a business to change the world, and it happened to be Sevenly. Instead of people saying, I started a business to make money, and we're going to give some of it away. Sevenly is just the how for us to fulfill our mission. I mean, that's how we really look at it. And you guys can buy products there to help us fulfill that mission, but just the products, again, are just the how to get there.
So you partner with a lot of nonprofits. What are you seeing as the trends facing the nonprofits in this economy?
Gosh, it's really sad, actually. I think that nonprofits, they're full of passion and lack business skills, is what I've, just a general thing. We worked with 110 of them every single week. But nonprofits right now, there's a few that are doing really well. The problem is that nonprofits are built on recipient mentality, and they don't have to learn how to be great business folks because everything is given to them. I mean, that's just, so what happens is that when we partner with charities sometimes, they're not good partners. We have to teach them how to be good partners because they're used to just receiving all the time, not giving, right? They give out to their cause, but they don't know how to like partner with businesses. So we teach them a lot about how lay the expectations on how to partner with us and what that looks like. There's a few charities out there that are doing it really well, but not like, I think that people are really shifting towards they want to buy products that bring a cohesion to their life instead of just giving money away. So meaning that, I don't know, we've done a poll with about 3,000 people, and about 62% of them said that they would rather buy a product that gives to a charity than to donate directly to the charity. And that was a major shift. Again, that was just our 3,000 people that we asked, so it could have been skewed, but charities need to read the book Uncharitable. I don't know if you've heard about that book. And that guy who gives the talk who's got a really good idea there. Forgot his name, Dan Pelota. But they need to be more bold. They need to sell more products. They need to understand that design matters. They need to understand micro-giving. People want to give $3.40. You know, Compassion's website, I think to this day, like the minimum donation is $20, I think. And it's like, what are you doing? So I think there's a lot to go with it, but we're learning. Charities, I think, are going to be a really great part of our economy in the next couple of years, especially those that can understand design. I think Charity Water is probably one of them that just crushes it. I mean, they just get design better than anybody. Invisible Children does a pretty good job. And outside of that, IJM does a pretty good job. But outside of that, there's really not many out there. Maybe 5 that are just really pushing it. I think you're going to see a lot of charities go under and redefine what charity looks like, just like business. You're going to have a lot of businesses go under and redefine what business really looks like. So.
Thanks. I really enjoyed the whole presentation.
Thanks.
My question was, somewhere in the Bible it says about how when you give, you don't want to do it like broadcasted. You want to do it kind of in private and secret. Not asking to cite the exact scripture, but in an era where I've even heard statistics where 70% of consumers in our generation would prefer to buy from a socially responsible company. How do you get that message? Like there's kind of a fine line of like getting that message out without kind of coming off as like, hey, we're still,
That's a great question. So in Exodus 24:7, in Hebrew it says asah shema, right? By doing we understand. So generosity is, you can't understand it until you've done it, right? So you don't understand the value of giving until you've given. So Sevenly's mission is twofold. It's to raise funding and awareness for the world's greatest causes, as well as leading a generation toward generosity. So for us, in that statement, because I can only speak for Sevenly at this point, is our mission is to lead a generation toward generosity in a very unique way. So you have, I actually work it through a funnel, where you actually have, imagine a funnel right here, okay? And you have outside the funnel, you have ignorant and censored people that just don't know what's going on. Our goal is to get them through this funnel, but there's steps. There's a process that goes down the funnel. You don't take somebody and just throw them down to the middle of the funnel. It doesn't work that way. Our goal is, how do I get them in the first ring of the funnel? And for us, it's always been getting people to give in a certain way. So the easiest barrier to entry for generosity for us was get them to donate a share, like a like or a tweet. So we would focus on all these people, and we got 7.8 million people to donate a like or a tweet, right? And then, so they're in the funnel now. Now the goal is to not get them anywhere but move them into the next ring, which is to buy a product, right? So boom, they see a really cool shirt that they like. They don't even care about the charity. They just buy the shirt. But we give $7 on their behalf, and we say, good job, Johnny. You bought and you gave back to a charity. Man, that's so awesome. Share it to your Facebook page. He shares it. The girl that he likes in his class says, oh my God, that's so awesome, Johnny, you bought this. And he's like, yes, right? So generosity, now it's like he's starting to get some kind of praise for it, regardless if it's biblical. He's moving down. He's seed planting, right? We're seed planting. He's moving down the funnel. Then he actually sees a charity that he cares about. He buys another product. So he buys 2 times. So we've got a couple 100,000 people that have done that bought 2 times. And then the next one is buying a gift card. So you're buying now for someone else that gives back, right? And then the last one is you're donating directly to the charity or donating your time to the charity. And we're trying to figure out how we measure that right now. But we're assuming we have 10, 15,000 people that have done that outside of, because they heard of them through Sevenly. So again, that's how we're looking at generosity, is that, we want to focus on really the first-time givers, getting them into the funnel, leading a generation toward understanding that. So in a personal donation stance, I think that you're right. You got to make that call personally. I think products are going to kind of sit outside of that. I think people are going to want a cohesion. They're going to want to buy their fair trade bananas from Whole Foods, and then they're going to want to wear their Tom shoes and their Sevenly shirt and their Warby Parker glasses and their Crochet Kids beanie, and that's what they're going to want to do. They want cohesion in their life. So.
I was curious, during your research, did you find that there was a relationship in, say, between phases 2 and 3 when a company went from private to public?
I haven't researched that. That's a cool question. It's funny. We've actually had people ask us, "Are you ever going to take Sevenly public?" And I'm like, "I don't think so. I don't think that's part of our DNA." But I bet you there is. I would assume that because it's hypergrowth. You lose control. Typically, it's you're
From the outside.
you're guided by people that don't know that don't know the DNA of the company. And that's why companies that you can tell that if they value people over profit, they say no to giant chunks of money all the time. Like people that own In-N-Out, I'm sure they've been asked to go public 100 times, right? And they don't. Chick-fil-A can make an extra $1 billion this year if they just open on Sundays, but they don't. Same with Hobby Lobby and other different companies that Ben and Jerry's did a great job. REI. I mean, a lot of those companies that say no to big cash. So yeah, you're probably right. There probably is a correlation there. So.
Can you give some examples of some companies that are, doing good, but they're not necessarily, just donating their money to a charity or partnering with a charity, but kind of more creative ways of doing it?
Yeah, I'd say PayPal has done a pretty good job. I guess they're kind of donating money, but they're offering really cool microeconomics and microfinance to different nations the way they're working. REI, just like environmentally, Patagonia, Whole Foods. Again, like the companies that you kind of feel in your soul, you're like, oh, that's a good, better company. I'd rather spend my money there. You might not know why. I'm doing the research on a couple more that have been, and I have to kind of take the moral boundary out of it a little bit and just say, okay, well, which ones have stayed true to their values at least and have like valued people, whether, I don't care who those people are, but they valued them over money, right? And they've like stayed that way for a long time. Ben and Jerry's has been pretty stinking awesome. They decided to go slow growth for a long time. So that's about all I have right now. There's a couple more, but I'm not 100% sure on them, so I won't say them right now. But Target has been like really good candidate in our research, and especially what they just rolled out Lauren Bush's feed program, and they just released that statement saying that all their food's going to be organic in like 2017 or something, and they're really trying hard. Apple is always been people over profit in terms of their mentality. It's all about the design. Steve Jobs did a really good job there, but he didn't really care about people outside of the people that bought for Apple. So Tim Cook is doing a better job at that. And I think that if they can blend the two, I think they might fit in that era too. Yeah.
Starting a nonprofit, I'm looking at when it starts next year, I'm going to have to hire at least 20 people right off the bat.
Mm-hmm.
In order to take care of them, the problem would be financing. What would be the best way in order to get the financing to take care of the employees?
So I would watch Scott Harrison's, it's called Foundation video. It's on their About page. Scott's a good friend of mine from Charity Water. He's doing it right because he knows that people don't trust nonprofits just like they don't trust companies, right? So he does 100% of the money donated to the charity goes to the charity, or goes to the cause. Meaning that like, if you give $10, even with your credit card, the $10 will go and Scott will raise the money privately to replace the credit card fees. I mean, literally, he goes, it's 100% to the cause. But how does he pay for his 60 people? He raises separate money for his 60 people. So he raises a lot of money to pay for that staff. And he does really cool events. He does a store with really cool partnerships with products. If I was going to start a nonprofit, which I think that I could right now and be very successful in it because I know exactly what's going on with it, the first thing I would do is hire a ton of designers, creatives to tell the story. Because that's a really good finance person and a really good ops person are really easy to find. Really good creatives are not as easy to find. You need them both. You need all of them. Geez, I have one of the best CFOs and the best COOs out there, and they're incredible. But finance folks, operation folks are so good at what they do, but if you do it without creatives, in today's world, in today's economy, you end up being the most boring company in the world, And so I would say if you're going to start that, just budget in that time, and then you find a creative person that can raise money. That's what and raise it separately. I don't see very many charities, if any other charities, that do it what Scott does. But man, like there's so much trust in that charity, and they're growing like year over year over year over year. And their cause, water, is actually like number 14 on converting causes on Sevenly. Like, so the number top 5 converting causes on Sevenly, which I would say is pretty good global statistics because, at least U.S. statistics, we have 600,000 people hit the site each month, 600,000 uniques. We have number 1 converting is autism. So people care about autism because it's relatable. Like everybody knows somebody with autism, right? Number 2 is hunger, which I relate to heritage. It's a heritage cause. It's been around forever. There's more trust in that cause than most. Sex trafficking is number 3, only because I think it's hot right now. As sad, as weird as that sounds, but it's a hot cause right now. Number 4 is animals, so pets, and because everybody has a pet. Bullying is after that. Everybody's been bullied or bullied somebody, and it's relatable. And then you get like cancer, which again is relatable, domestic violence. You want relatability. Microfinance, worst performing cause we've worked with. Not because it's a horrible thing, it's one of the best things for the world. It's just the worst performing cause because it's too complex for most people. Same with invisible children, child soldiers. It's just like, I don't have a place in that for my mind. Like, where do I stick this kid with a gun? Like, it doesn't go anywhere for me. So I'm starting to learn buyer psychology on that. So just whenever you're starting something, think about that.
Mine's actually a college and career ready model charter school.
Okay, so yeah, so it's outside kind of the...
Kind of outside the norm.
Yeah, I think again, if you can tell, remember, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. If you can get someone to tell that story and whatever the belief is behind that in a creative way, pay the creatives. You're going to pay finance people a lot of money because they make things work.
I was going to look on having someone like that on my board.
Yeah. Don't do my friend's neighbor's brother's wife is a designer and her brother and her do this little design business on the side. Like, just my design department is probably more than half of our payroll. It's crazy, and they're all 6-figure guys. I mean, that's who you pay. It sounds scary. You can start off in the the $40,000, $50,000 range. For nonprofits too, Scott pays his guys because he raises his money separately. He doesn't get crap for it. Scott pays his guys 6 figures. But when someone says, well, the money's not, it's like, no, I raise the money separately. Like I raise it for my staff. All the money that gives to the charity goes out. So it can pay people that way. So.
This is a little bit off topic, but I'm trying to start my own online startup. And I'm just wondering if you have any more like practical tips on, how like you went on that journey and like any tips for.
Yeah. Social media has way more powerful than I think people think. People say that all the time, but if you find someone that really knows how to turn relationships into revenue, it's worth a lot. And we did what we called, you have your idea, and then you have proof of concept, and then you have scale, right? Those are the 3 kind of seasons of a business. You're at the idea phase, right? When you have a proof of concept, it's 6 months, means that like it works. I have something and people are buying. And not like I have 9 people buy, but like I had 900 people buy this, right? That's typically when you want to, if you're going to take in any investment, take an angel investment if you can. There's 2 types of investors, really. There's angel investors, which are kind of friends and family, private investors, and then there's institutional investors, which are VCs. We took in all angel money because they believed what we believed. They're believers. They were, people that cared about our mission. And you'll be surprised if you have a good idea that's working, even at a small scale, and you get a guy, remember that if they knew what you knew, they would do as you do, right? So if you can convince them what's in your mind and put it in their mind, then you'll likely, Sevenly was doing like $120,000 a year, like projection, but it was enough to say, hey, this is going to work, and we got $1 million. So I'd say and again, Sevenly is my 6th company, and I've been fired from my 3rd one. So if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And you just start another one. So just keep going, serial entrepreneur. So.
What is the demographics of this business model, for your clients that you're selling to?
We're 85% female. We're trying to shift that down to 75% so we will have a little bit more of a male-dominated market. A female-dominated store, men won't buy at a female-dominant store, but women will buy at a male-dominant store, right? So we're trying to figure out how to balance that out. Like a girl will go to Urban Outfitters that seems a little bit like more neutral and masculine, or go to Active Skate Shop to pick up something. But a guy will never walk into like, J. Jill or Forever 21 or whatever else, They're trying to get their guy demographic up there right now, and you're like the only guy out there wearing skinny jeans. But yeah, we're 85, 15, 24 to 34 is kind of our sweet spot.
Do you think this movement is more geared for kind of the younger generation, kind of like what you're saying? And the reason I say that is I'm listening to what you're saying, and I like everything about it, but I'm also listening to it from the perspective of I'm a father, I have 3 kids, I have a wife that is home most of the time, and we give 10% of whatever we make on the top to our church. And there's not, there's some left, but it's tight, and so you're watching everything. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, are these products that I would be buying, are they more expensive so that they can provide the extra amount to a charity? Could this movement break into that family market, I guess is kind of the question.
Yeah, I mean, we sell tons of kids stuff, tons of it. Young, like hip families, like buy a lot of our stuff because they're looking for cohesion. You give 10% to your church, but that's like a total like corridor. And you do probably give to your family and friends and care about them in a certain way, but I think that corridor is going to explode to figure out like, well, where do you buy your lunch at? Well, where do you buy your shoes at? Well, where do you buy this at? Because if you need a shirt or you need a jacket or you need a bag, you might as well buy it from a company like Sevenly because it gives back. So it's someone that's saying that I'm not okay with just like being a generosity living in this one angle of my life. And I think that's what Christ calls us to be. It means that like, even me, like, I think that the tithe is biblical, but I don't think it's Christian. I think that we're called way more than 10%. Mm-hmm. So that I think that it's important for us to say, hey, we're going to give more. And that might not be like all of our money. Like it might be, generosity is like rarely about money. And it's a way for us to get a chance to like give everywhere in our lives. So I think the church, sadly, is a little bit slower to this concept, which is so sad. The gay community rocks it. I mean, it's just right there. I mean, I was in San Francisco yesterday. I flew in this morning, and I was wearing a Sevenly shirt, and this gay couple came up to me, oh my God, I just bought that. And I'm just like, man, this whole community like loves people more than the church loves people right now. And so I think that it's going to be a interesting shift for the church on how this looks. But I think it's a dead-on question because it's been asked to me a few times, and I've probably given a few different answers. But that's today's answer. So, yeah.
What is your gross profit margin?
We operate at 64%. Yeah, so blended margin. So we've been able to see most companies that we're a retailer, right? An e-tailer, meaning so that we carry products that aren't just our products. Like we're about to start carrying J. Crew and we're going to start carrying Stussy and different other brands, right, that are out there. We become a social good plug-in for brands that don't have a social good model. Mm-hmm. So that's a really important component. It means that Stussy does care about stuff, but that hasn't been their business model for the last 20 years. So it might look a little bit disingenuous if they just tacked it on right now, right? So same with J. Crew. So they create a product that they sell exclusively with Sevenly, or a certain color of it or something, and we sell it on our website, but we say, hey, don't just give us the product at the regular price that other vendors do and then expect to get all the, Stussy cares. How about you split the margin with us? So they typically, 99% of the time, our vendors give us a cut. So they'll split 350 of the 7. So we don't have to like have our prices super high. Again, that might only last for a couple years, but by the time that goes, hopefully 7 will be big enough to sustain. I mean, you're going to spend more to give, hands down. And I think that people get that. And that's why you go to Whole Foods, right? You go to Whole Foods because you want organic food, because you don't want the food that's like destroying me, destroying your body, So you just spend more for it. I think that that's going to happen, especially if the economy continues to strengthen. I think it'll be a good season for that.
Have you seen this model translate into service-based businesses?
Yeah, I mean, like CarMax is like, I don't know if they're considered a service. I think they are, kind of, or Carfax. There's like so many charter schools, homeschooling models. I think that you're going to start seeing in so many different ways. Service models are hard because you're managing so many different people, But I think that you are definitely going to start seeing it hit everywhere. I think you're going to start seeing it hit in the church in a very, very unique way, where people will start leaving big churches and start going into the homes because they're looking for something more organic and more authentic. And you probably start seeing that now if you're watching that stuff. But one more.
So why 7? I mean, it's kind of a number that you've kind of honed in on.
Yeah.
Why 7 for your?
So heaven in Hebrew means a world without need. So heaven, 7 leaves a play off heavenly. And 7 has always been a biblical representation of completion. So our name is really a mission in itself, is to complete a world without need. And so there's the backstory to the name. So we've been, I think we've just been blessed to be able to, I can't believe the domain was available. I mean, that was crazy. So that was a God thing right there. So I'm like, .com. Yeah, so it was cool.
Biola University offers a variety of biblically centered degree programs, ranging from business to ministry to the arts and sciences. Visit biola.edu to find out how Biola could make a difference in your life.